long time. I did mean to do an update about everything whilst I was in hospital when I just came out of hospital, but I didn't really have all the medical facts to do that because before my surgery, they told me they didn't know how they were going to do it, and I literally only found out this week how it was done. So that's why it's taken so long for me to do this update. So I do apologise because I should have done it weeks ago. So what I thought I'd do is I thought I'd go through from the day I had my surgery until now so you can see or hear what I had done. So on the 6th of January, I went into hospital really early at Bristol Southmead. I was met by my surgical nurse who was looking after me that morning and had all my usual, vitals done and everything. The anaesthetist came to see me, put my fears at rest, and then I met up with my 3 surgeons. I had a gynaecologist surgeon who was doing the removal of the ovary and the tumour, and then I had 2 surgeons. I had the senior fellow and I had the lead senior consultant who were doing fistula repair. So afterwards, after the surgery, I was in the recovery room and I was in quite a lot of pain. I'd been in surgery for a lot longer than they thought it was going to be. So I was just in so much pain. They just pumped me through loads of painkillers, and then I had to be ambulanced across the ward that I was staying in. So all this time they spent trying to get me pain-free, which is absolutely ridiculous because I ended up being carted across in a really rickety old ambulance, not even a modern one, and I literally felt every lump. And by the time I got to the ward, I was actually in a right state because I was back in being in pain again. So it was absolutely ridiculous, really, but never mind. And I actually hardly remember anything the consultants told me over the next few days. There's reasons for that. When my gynaecologist saw me the next day, I was off my face. I remember her coming to see me, but I barely remember anything she said. And then I had 2 days where I was really quite poorly. I had really high temperature, and they rushed me over to the main block to have a chest x-ray. And I didn't know at the time why. And I did find out this week when I found out what had been done. So basically, what happened is that they had done, they said I didn't have very much breath sounds on my left-hand side, so they were worried I had like either pneumonia or like a really bad chest infection, or my asthma or something was really playing up or something, because my breath sounds were terrible. So they rushed me over, and also the other risk as well as pulmonary embolism, so of course they worry about that. So of course they rushed me over to have a chest x-ray, but didn't tell me why I was having the chest x-ray, and I only found out, and it's like week 9 now, I found out this week why they did that, because it was on my notes on the system why I had the chest x-ray. They put like, query, breath sound, small amount of breath sound on the left hand side, and that's why I had chest x-ray, so I had no idea why. And I don't know if I'm seeing my doctor on the 20th, and I'm going to get her to check my chest and just make sure that it's all okay, because I don't actually know if my breath sounds have improved, because nobody's actually told me why they were doing the chest x-ray. Otherwise I would have been, can you just check everything sounds all right before I leave, because I have been getting really breathless, and it's not actually been checked. And the other thing was, obviously I had a really high temperature, and I didn't feel very well for like 2 days, and basically I had all the screening done for septicemia, but that thankfully all came back normal, but my CRP, which is my inflammatory markers, were really high, and apparently that can sometimes make your temperature really high. And I did not feel very well at all. I could actually feel my whole body beating, like I could feel my chest beating, like my heart was beating in my chest, and it was like boom, 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 boom. So I really didn't feel very well, and I was also not with it, even though I wasn't on the really high painkillers anymore. I was not with it at all. And the other thing that kept happening and this is a warning for TMI, by the way. The other thing that kept happening is I kept vomiting. I could not keep anything down. I couldn't keep drinks down, food down, and my appetite just went completely out the window. For the whole 2 days, I just barely touched anything. I just struggled to. I managed to force a bit of ice cream down, and they gave me these little shakes to drink, which were vile. It was like drinking sticky syrup. It was vile, but apparently, I needed to have something in my system to help me heal. So, of course, I was forcing myself to drink these things. But I had really bad sickness, and the problem is that um, I wasn't just vomiting, it was coming out the other end because the force of the vomiting was just making it come out the other end. I am sorry about the TMI, but this is really what happened to me. It was awful. And it was very difficult because I had this massive plastic hospital, ginormous catheter thing. And it was like impossible to do anything. So it was really difficult to get to a commode and all those kinds of things. I really found it difficult to get out of bed because I had drains as well. So I had like a drain coming out the right hand side. So it was an absolute nightmare to try and get. Sorry about that. It was an absolute nightmare to try and get mobile in the hospital because of this huge thing that they were expecting me to carry around. It wasn't like a normal catheter bag. It was like a big plastic box. It had like a valve on the top, and basically it was because I was bleeding quite badly through my catheter. And so what they were doing was they were collecting the top, and then they could measure it, and then they would open it, and then it would empty into a bigger bag underneath, and then there was another valve. And so basically it collected like a whole day's worth of urine, but it was really difficult to carry it around because it could be quite heavy sometimes if it was full of, urine. So it was really difficult and I couldn't sit up because they kept trying to get me to sit in a chair. And every time I sat up, I felt sick and dizzy, and then I would start dry retching, and it was an absolute nightmare. And of course, I didn't feel very well either. And I had this Hitler nurse who was bloody awful. Anyway, so I was in there for 5 days, and they finally sorted me out with a normal day catheter. And then they sort of sent me home with day catheters, which I had changed weekly, and then they sent me home with a night one as well. So then I would have to plug this day catheter into the night one, and I had like a stand on the floor. But the only problem is that they gave me straps for the catheter bag, and the problem is that straps didn't fit. So they were too tight, so I cut my leg off, and I ended up with like loads of swelling on the top of my leg. And I managed to DIY 2 together and then kind of trim them to make it so it wasn't tight. But the problem is that the only way I could get the catheter to stay upright was if I had it too tight, because if I didn't have it tight enough, the catheter bag just slid down my leg. So it made an absolute nightmare to walk anyway. So I literally, for most of the 6 weeks that I had the catheter in, I would literally, if I was in the house, I just carried my catheter with me. I didn't bother having straps because it was just so uncomfortable, and because it kept moving down my leg, it wasn't actually doing the right thing. And then you have to laugh because when I was having washes and stuff at the sink, I needed both hands. I would tie the catheter bag using a stretchy bandage to my underwear because it was the only way I could do it. And I know it's funny to sort of say that now, but and my husband used to think it was hilarious, but it really worked because my underwear was obviously, my arse was holding my underwear up, and that seemed to be, as long as my catheter was empty, so I would just like empty my catheter first, tie it to my underwear, and then I could have a proper bath, like a bath at the sink. So that worked really well. I was quite uncomfortable at home, but I sort of got into a quick routine, and I was able to sit downstairs fairly early on. I used my husband's orthopaedic chair to start with, and then that just became too uncomfortable for my back, so I started sitting on the sofa. I saw my doctor sort of fairly regularly throughout this. I was quite enjoying the fact that I could drink what I wanted and not have to worry about it, so that was quite cool. And I still at this point had no idea really what they had done in the operation. So I saw my gynecologist this week, and so luckily she had everything on the screen. She didn't have all the personal notes, but she could tell me, because she was actually there in the operation, she could pretty much tell me what they'd done. And so basically what had happened is that my tumour on my ovary had got attached to my abdominal back wall, and so she'd had to kind of dig it out, and it was also stuck to my bowel, so they had to very carefully disattach that. But because of the way it kind of got stuck to things, my vagina and my urethra were kind of tangled up in it, so they had to be really, really careful, undoing it all to make sure that they didn't damage other systems within my body. Like the urethra is obviously really important because that comes from the kidneys. You've got two that come down from the kidneys and go into your bladder, and obviously they didn't want to damage that. And actually, the week after my operation, my kidney function wasn't fantastic, but it did go back to normal, luckily. So, obviously everything was in a bit of shock. And then obviously she removed the tumour and the ovary, but she said that it wasn't straightforward. She said normally if it's just a cyst, it literally takes her 5 minutes, but because it was so badly stuck and it involved so many systems in my abdomen, like, it was involving my urethra, my vagina, my back abdominal wall, or pelvic wall as you call it, and the bowel. It was quite sort of difficult. And she said at one point you had like 6 hands in you sort of moving things around and trying to get underneath, and I was like, crikey, it was a bit of an image to have the thought of all these hands inside me messing about and holding things back and doing stuff. So and it was my gynecologist that told me about why I'd had to have the x-ray, and that all my blood tests were normal. My tumour markers came back normal from my tumour. And then she surprised me because she told me that basically the way my operation was done, because my fistula was in such an odd place, they had to basically split my bladder in half and kind of peel it open, and then go in there, cut the fistula out, and then they re-sew it up, and then they sew your whole bladder back up again. So basically my bladder had been open like that, and then they'd gone in, fixed it, and then closed it back up again. And then obviously I had the catheter in for nearly 6 weeks, and then I had a cystograph, which is basically I was laying on a table and they get the catheter and they put a bottle on a tall thingamajiggy, and that's got contrast dye in it, and then that literally goes into the catheter, and the gravity of it pushes it into the bladder. And I've got a CT machine going around me, and then I had a massive, probably 50-inch screen in front of me, so I could actually see what was being done. It was fascinating, and I could actually see every time I took a picture, you could see it filling up because it was black on the screen. So instead of being like white, it was black from the contrast dye. So I could see my bladder being filled up, and then they go all the way around just to make sure there's no leaks. And they do that like several times, and then they blow the image up so they can really, really see all around. And then luckily for me, they found no leaks, so they were able to remove my catheter. So I am 4 weeks this Tuesday, and it's Saturday today, so I'm 4 weeks this Tuesday without catheter, and touch wood, and I keep doing this because I'm just so paranoid. I haven't had any leaking so far, so as long as this continues, because the recovery for it is up to 12 weeks and I'm only just 9 weeks. I've got another 3 weeks before I think they'll sort of be saying to me, yes, it sounds like it's taken, because it can still apparently go wrong because I've still got a lot of healing to do. I'm still quite sore. I'm just getting used to it. I mean, when the first couple of weeks I had my catheter out, my bladder was really, really sensitive, and I was constantly peeing like every hour. And I've been taking my D-Minose, which is like a supplement which is to help keep your bladder healthy. And I had it when I had like lots of UTIs, and it's brilliant stuff. So I took the full dose of it for the first 2 weeks, and now I'm down to like a 1 dose a day just to keep on top of it. And I'm finding I'm managing to go like sometimes the whole afternoon without having to go to the toilet, even though I'm drinking. Although I can really tell when my bladder is full, because obviously things are still healing, so it's still a bit sensitive. So sometimes I'm like, I really need to go pee. and I am struggling to end my pee properly. Now they did tell me that might happen, so I've got to kind of do this thing where I lean forward on the toilet as far as I can, and then I have to sort of sit back. It's almost like a rocking, and then that kind of like encourages it, because I've had a catheter in, and so my urethra is a bit like sensitive, and sometimes it does that, it like gets stuck in the urethra, and I have to kind of encourage it to come out. But apparently when, you know, there's still swelling and all this going on, and so it should eventually settle down. And I've only just started to be able to do my Kegel exercises, because my pubic area was so sore, and so of course when I was clenching those muscles it was so painful, and it's only been sort of this last week that that's settled down, and I've still got like pins and needles in my pubic area, but apparently this is all very normal, and the nerves and everything are regenerating, and I'm going to get unusual sensations. I sometimes get like sharp and weird pains for no reason, just suddenly go ah, like that. It sort of hurts. The thing that's caused me like the most pain in the last couple of weeks hasn't actually been the incision area, although that has been sore on occasion, and it's actually been where my drain was, because although my drain was only in for 5 days, because it goes through your 6-pack muscles, it can take ages to heal, and literally I've had this dark black, like it's only like this big, probably a little small actually, about this big, like dark black bruise that's been there for weeks and weeks, and it's only literally this week that I've noticed it started to get lighter. So because like it goes all the way into the abdomen, so like all that muscle layer, you know, the whole muscle layer has got to heal, and then that's the last bit that will heal properly. And I've been getting pain from that like you wouldn't believe. It's weird because makes the whole side of one side of my belly really sore, and sort of like feels like someone's like punched me in the side. And so that was causing me issues when I was like getting up and down from sitting. So anyway, today, how I feel today is much better. I've been able to get out for some walks, which is great, and I've been able to go to like the local Tesco's, which is just like a mile down the road, and I've been able to do a little bit like a bag of shopping. I drove the car, because they said I could drive after 6 weeks as long as I thought I could do an emergency stop, and because I'm literally just driving a mile, I've been managing to do that, and I literally sort of restrict myself to a very tiny little shop because I'm not allowed to lift over 5 kilograms, so I have to like be really careful about what I carry. So I've been able to do that. I'm still getting some daily discomfort, like my tummy hurts, and where my incision is, it can get quite sore if I overdo it. So if I do too much, I do get pain from that. But it's usually because I've done too much. So I'm just kind of like trying to pace myself now not to overdo it, because it's so easy to overdo it. Because obviously I'm being impatient, I'm a bit stir crazy. I've been off work for 9 weeks, and they don't want me to go back until 12 weeks because I had so much done. Because she said, I don't think you realise what a ginormous operation it was. It wasn't straightforward like a hysterectomy is or anything like that. It's a lot more complex, and there was a lot more difficulties because of everything being stuck together. So she said, I just don't think you realise how much you've had done. So trying to learn to pace myself because I'm impatient, because I want to get out of the house, is difficult. So I've had like this week, or I've had days where I've had quite a lot of pain in the night, and it's because I'm doing too much. So I've got to try and slow down and pace better. I think I need to learn that. And then I'm hoping, because it's supposed to be quite nice from Monday, that I'll actually be able to get out and do some walking, because she said walking would be brilliant for me. I'm seeing the doctor on the 20th of March to talk about HRT, and you know what I can do there. And then I see the urologist in May. But I'm hopefully back at work on the 31st March. So anyway, that's where I am now. I'm sorry it took so long for me to update everybody, but I'm okay. Getting there, healing, trying to pace and all that kind of thing. And I'll try and more regularly update you. All right. So anyway, I hope you're having a great weekend. And I'll see you soon. I've got a little sleepy doggy here. Oh, little sleepy doggy. So cute.